I'm going to compare Zip Red with Zip Gray in this video and show you a few more differences on how they function and what can happen with price in the way they move. In the charts, I have three lines drawn here. I'm going to start out with the green line and the pink line first. And on the pink line, we have Zip Red at 1.8 and Zip Gray at 1.6. So it's just a hair underneath Zip Red. If you've heard me say before, when Zip Gray goes under Zip Red, it has a tendency to bounce, reverse back up in a stronger fashion. But that primarily is with the condition that in 1 or 2 days it drops very strongly, like 50, 60, 70 points. Or at least it starts out at 70 and drops to 20 or whatever the case may be. It drops, it has a significant drop in 1 or 2 days. When it does that, we call that, when it goes down 70 points in 1 day, we call that a spike. Even 50 points is a spike down. But the vast majority of the time, red is lowest. Zip Red is lowest and not Zip Gray. And Zip Gray just picks up that little difference, and obviously Zip Red and Gray are paired together and synchronized for that matter. But the thing that happens so often with Zip Red and Gray, let me just say that these two are indicators that need supporting evidence around them. There's a lot of indicators that are stronger than other indicators, and as you listen to the videos, you'll capture and see which ones are those. Just like it's more important for the Zip Pink and Swing Zion and the three price lines are all price barometers. When we watch price barometers, and we watch Zip Green and Zip Zion because they're buyers moving in and out of the market. And so Zip Pink, in its relationship to Zip Green and Zip Zion, for example, has a lot of impact or ability to recognize some key force changes, market force changes. So we like to watch Zip Red and Swing Pink because they're the fastest, they're leading indicators and the two fast line are the quickest lines in the entire system. And of course we watch the 7 short-term trend lines in the 3 groups: the trend trio, blue, pink, yellow, power, orange and green, and swing, red and green. Now, when you get a spike, a gray underneath red, even though in this particular case you do not get a very good spike, Zip Red was 33 the day before, and today it's at 1. It went down 30 points, and that's not bad because it ended up under 3 or under 5. But what happened here, if you haven't seen it, is you got a triple bottom falling. Your Zip Red and in fact your yellow and blue are doing the same thing. They're bouncing lower each day out of 3 days, and I think you know triple as well from your candle theory. If you understand some basic criteria about triple bottoms and triple tops and things like this, you know that that's a reversal pattern. A triple bottom is a reversal pattern going back up. So when we get a falling triple bottom, it's acting as though it could be a stronger red, Zip Red down movement. Not that it comes from up so high, but that it does it in several days. That being said, the the next day gives us a green candle. Not a very big one, but it obviously gives us a green candle, and that's what we're looking for. We also have, as indications, we have if you've heard me talk about it before, that is the price red, the 2 times 2 factor. We like to see price red near blue as it is closer in this example. Blue's at 10 and red's at 16. But if we take the red times 2, we like to see that number less than the green number, and that indicates an uptrend, or a next day up, I mean. In this case, 16 is times 2 is 32, and we have price green at 32.1. So that is a contributing factor that tells us that the zip green, that the zip gray will go up tomorrow. And we also, as well, we can look over here, like in the trend chart, we have a TOC pattern in the gray and in the red, and not in the green. That's a couple, 3 days down. But it's patterns like that, and that pattern is continued in 4 or 5 lines in the power chart as well. So your TOC lower leg pattern before the peak is a good pattern to identify with, which this is. But we also, I'll also have you take note that swing gray is traveling low, parallel with the 0 line. And swing gray right here is actually at 1.00. So that's, from that perspective, it's not going to start an uptrend because it's just traveling low, parallel with 0. Looking on to the green line, zip gray and zip red are actually even at 19.53. They are both at the identical same point to within 1/100th of a point. Now, we've done a fair amount of research on this, trying to figure out what identical patterns, what identical pairs do or mean, and the response is varied. But the one thing that we do assume is that it's beneficial, it could be beneficial for your particular pattern. In other words, if you're thinking that gray is under red and they're equal, then you can treat it as though gray is under red. But from that perspective, let me remind you again that the gray underneath the red pattern works best with a spike down 1 or 2 or even 3 days down. Like 70 points down in 1, 2, or 3 days is great when gray is under it. When you don't have that happen, then that's not always, those responses aren't necessarily going to be the case. And in this case here, we have zip gray that goes from 76, and 2 days later it is at 19. So it's dropped about 75 points. And so that's good in the drop that it makes. They're equal, so that the tendency is to think that, yes, the next day it's going to go up. We also are in a red spike, which is zip red under 50 and zip yellow above 50, both of them going down. We are also, I'll just point this out because it throws a little mixture into the thing. The green vertical line, you may have not noticed it, pretty hard to see, but the zip Zion is highest. And if you understand what zip Zion means, when zip Zion is highest and going down, it has a downtrend motion. Most of the time when zip Zion is highest, even when it goes up, it will still go down. In this particular case, that does not happen, and and one of the reasons is because you're seeing the zip yellow in a fairly high position. and so that I just wanted to point that out, because this is an abnormal zip Zion line. They usually will go down. But as you can see, if you look at your contributing factors over here on the trend chart, you have the zip green that's basically at a point above the pink. It's not closest to the pink, but it could react in a positive price movement. As well, zip red is down touching just under yellow, and zip gray is down touching just above yellow. So you can think of this as a somewhat of as a triple down touch, but green is pretty high above pink, so it really doesn't qualify that much for a triple. But the reaction of a down touch is a reversal up. So again, that's good from the perspective that it can go back up from those down touches, but in this particular case, that's what we're looking for, obviously, because we have a gray that's equal, and it could be just treated as though it was just under it. But in the power chart, we have all four power lines, power yellow, or power blue, pink, yellow, and white, all up above power orange. And that is a proximity group pattern for next day up as well. So again, from that perspective, we see a good anticipated next day up scenario. And the point I'm trying to make here is that you want to look at the supporting evidence of what you have along with your power, or along with your zip gray under red. Because when you have a lot of supporting evidence that says it's going to react like we normally think it's going to go back up, that's great. But if you don't have the supporting evidence, then zip gray under red can be a very minor movement. The third one is a yellow line. I just wanted to point this out because I spotted it just when I was setting up, and this is a red-green 2-day twin spike, and typically those will always go up, but you can see you're basically in a downtrend, and that downtrend exists because you're in a zip yellow that's going down, along with, going through this yellow line, a power yellow going down. And when those two lines together are highest and going down, you inevitably run into a downtrend. So that was just a quick side trip on what happens there with mixed signals. And there's one other thing that I wanted to point out here that I forgot, and that is right in here. Your power green right here on this thing is at 142, and on this peak over here, your power green is at 139. The peak for your power green and power red is up there in the 140s somewhere. It typically occurs in above 145 as a peak. There's only a handful of times that I've seen price green above 150. It hardly ever gets to 150, but in the upper 130s and in the 140s, that's the range of the high, and then it's going to go down. And so just like power red at -6 is the bottom, it never goes below, power red never goes below 6. Now you see these two twin this high M pattern, and with the 142 on the left one and the 139 on the other one, you can tell that you're in a lower right high M pattern, lower right peak high M pattern. But that becomes really obvious when you look over here at the trend red, those two peaks. The trend, the power of The loss of power in the symbol or in the market is obviously recorded in the trend red. It barely made it into the price green and price red lines, but in the trend red it was real obvious. And it's in a price divergent move as well, which typically means a real strong downtrend. And I would think of a stronger downtrend when I think of this rather than what we see. But I guess it did go from a high of about 158 down to 152 somewhere. So that's not that's not bad from the peak down to the low in about, looks like 8 or 9 days. But it's graphically obvious and easily identifiable with these sensitive indicators. So enough said about that for this recording. Again, I hope it was informative. I strive to show you how they work well and how they don't work well so that you can recognize both sides of indicator patterns. I think that's extremely important when you're analyzing patterns so that you know which way is which. And whatever you do, have fun trading.